Okay, let's start. Welcome everyone to our webinar, Building Your First ServiceNow Report in Just 15 Minutes. This session is recorded, so everybody will get the recording afterwards. So let's start. So first of all, who am I and why we are talking about this? Well, I represent ACSoft. ACSoft is a software development company since 2003. And since January this year, we are a part of Tempa Software. Our main focus is the data extraction and transformation. And so the heart of our portfolio are the connectors of different kinds. So the connectors between business platforms and ecosystems and BI tools. So we have the connectors in 6 different ecosystems. And with ServiceNow, we have 2 products, a connector for Power BI and connector for Tableau. And we are proud to be chosen by the companies. You can see them below. These are our clients. So who am I? I am the account manager within ACSoft. I am your main point of contact, and I have more than 5 years in B2B companies helping ACSoft build client relationships, and I have a deep focus on ServiceNow products now. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And now we'll start. So for the agenda, we'll have first of all, we'll talk about why is Power BI important for ServiceNow reporting. Then we'll learn how to overcome the challenge of bringing ServiceNow data into Power BI. Then the most important part, the most interesting part is how to build the report in Power BI in just 15 minutes. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So please, if you have any questions during the course of this webinar, please put them in the chat. So I will be able to answer them at the end of our webinar. So let's start with the challenges of ServiceNow built-in reporting. So as we all know, the ServiceNow reporting is pretty straightforward and it has a lot of limitations. So first of all, you're not allowed to see the dynamics. It is not possible to share those reports outside of ServiceNow, which can be important for analytics, for presenting it to the stakeholders. It's challenging to build a single report based on multiple tables. So when you have to build a report on different several tables or database views, it's pretty challenging. And also for ServiceNow reporting, of course, ServiceNow will be the only source of data. So you cannot combine multiple data sources in this case. Next, what are the advantages of Power BI? Why many companies choose Power BI for their reporting? Well, first of all, Power BI is market leader. They are a leader in the BI tools ecosystem. They are chosen by many companies because they are also a part of Microsoft ecosystem. So many companies who using Microsoft simply using them as a part of their ecosystem. They have a lot of advanced analytics. They are competitive on the market. They have the possibilities of building rich visualization, and they are also innovating. They are also developing as a company and as a tool. And so now, when we are talking about Power BI for ServiceNow, this has a lot of advantages. First of all, for the team. So the team can combine multiple data sources, multiple ServiceNow tables for their reports. Also, it's possible to maintain the user roles and access permissions when we are using Power BI. And it's also possible to copy the Power BI, the ServiceNow data to Power BI without any middleware. For businesses, it's also important to share the reports with the relevant stakeholders, and it's easy for the company to ensure the data consistency and manage the control, to have a dedicated team to build those reports. So now the first challenge that we come to is how to actually bring ServiceNow data into Power BI. So first option is to build an API. So ServiceNow has its own API, which can be integrated, and mostly it is known to be free of charge, so to say, but mainly the main disadvantage is you have to build it, you have to maintain it, and you have to maintain the whole team of developers who will build this solution, who will maintain it. And again, it just shifts focus from really focusing on the analytics, on making business decisions, to building and maintaining those APIs. What we are suggesting is you can have a ready-to-use connector, ready-to-use tool, which is no code, so anyone on the team can use this right after the installation. And it has a lot of advanced features, which I will overview a little bit later. So with that, you can really focus on building the reports and analytics and making business decisions, instead of shifting your focus elsewhere for building the API or building in-home solutions. So our connector is available on the ServiceNow store, so it's available for trial, and it's also available for purchase here through the ServiceNow store, so you don't have to search for another vendor. You don't have to onboard us as a separate vendor. Everything just goes through ServiceNow, and it's also native to ServiceNow. So it's built on Now platform, and the app works as a plugin on ServiceNow instance. How it works? It's basically built on API, but it's a little bit more advanced than a usual API. So it uses the OData feed to bring your ServiceNow data into Power BI. And the main advantage of this is there is no middleware, so your data is secure, it's getting encrypted and transferred directly into Power BI, and there is nothing in between. And after the installation, you will be the only owner of the plugin, so we as a company do not have access to your data. And let's get to the reports. So after the installation, you assign the roles. So the connector, first of all, the connector respects the roles that are given for your ServiceNow users. And we have also the dedicated roles for the connector. So not everyone can see it and use it. It's only available for the ServiceNow admin, who can then assign roles for other users to use it. And from our connector, you create a data source for a report, you export it to Power BI, and then you continue with building custom reports. So let's get to the main part, the most interesting part, and we will see it on a use case. So here is Sarah. Sarah works in a large enterprise company. She's in a position where she is swamped in tasks. Everything is super urgent. She has a very busy day. Everything is on fire. But then it gets even better, let's say. Her manager comes in with a top priority task. She has to deliver a report. The incident starts to show to the stakeholders this evening. And as we all know, Power BI is a very advanced tool. It's a powerful tool, and with having a lot of data in ServiceNow, it's been pretty difficult to build a report in such a little to no time. So, but with having the very same tools, the powerful tools like Power BI and Power BI Connector, it is actually possible to make it in very limited time. So the first option is what you can see here is our portal inside our Power BI Connector. From here, Sarah has a couple of options on how to save her time. So her first option would be to recreate the existing ServiceNow report in Power BI to then show it to the stakeholders. How she can do this, we have now an option to create a new data source from a report. When she hits that, she will be able to choose any of her reports, already existing reports in ServiceNow, and create a data source based on this report. What it does for her, so the app itself automatically fills out the fields, so it gives the data source the name, selects the table, applies all the filters, and selects all the fields needed for her report. And then with this data source, she can just bring this data and start building the report, start building the dashboard. But then again, she comes to a realization that she has also to spend time to actually build this dashboard. Which has to look good, it has to be comprehensive, it has to look beautiful and bring the data and actually deliver her thoughts to the stakeholders. So what she's going to do, the best practice of everything when you have no time for creating something from scratch, you can just create it from the template. And here she has this option. And so she can choose to create her data source from the template. And this will take her to this page where we have a couple of options of already pre-built ServiceNow dashboards. This is how they look like. There are a couple of them for different purposes, but as she has to create the incident stats report, she chooses this one, the very first one, incident management dashboard. So then after hitting to create the data source, it takes her to a 3-step widget where again, she is given the name to her data source. She can also leave it as is, or she can change it a little bit from here. And then the next step is she will be given 2 links. The first one is to download her pre-built dashboard. So the template for her dashboard for Power BI, and also the link to her data source, which she will connect that dashboard to bring the data from her ServiceNow instance into this dashboard. And the third step will take her to the very detailed instruction on how to import that template and how to link the data source to it. And at the end, as you can see for the data source, all the fields will be selected, all the filters will be applied, and also for another report, if you will have to combine different tables, here she will also see that all of the needed tables are already included. And at the end, she will get this in her Power BI with her ServiceNow data, and she will be ready to show it. She will only have to change the branding a little bit. And as you can see here, we have an overview of the current state, and also the next step is the overview of the performance. So with this solution, just click, and she gets her report in Power BI. But if she did have more time for creating this, the Power BI connector is a very advanced tool, as I already mentioned. So it is possible to do a lot of wonderful things with this. So first of all, you can name your data source. You can create multiple data sources for different purposes. As we saw already, It can be incident or performance stats. And so you can create, instead of taking all of the data from your ServiceNow instance and bringing it elsewhere, you can filter and you can change it directly in the connector. So here you are able to choose the needed tables, data views, then you're able to filter those data and bring only the needed data for your report into Power BI. You can easily navigate. You can use dot walking, which will also get the data from the reference tables right from the connector itself. And also, once she built a dashboard, she will also be able to refresh it. So to save it, and instead of building the new report, the new dashboard every time, she will also be able to refresh it just with the new data. And the more advanced feature is that it is possible to schedule those refreshes. So to not waste time, you can just schedule your refresh and get your data refreshed just before the start of your working day, or also to get an incremental refresh, which will allow you to only refresh and add the new data to your report instead of refreshing the whole data source. So if you'd like to try our connector from the store, here is the QR code to the store. And you can also book a live demo with us to see how it actually works live in person. So now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask or get them in the chat. So, okay.
I'm sorry, I have a question. So in the very beginning, you were talked about how it can use the current roles and things that you have in your system and for ServiceNow. Is that the Power BI in general, or is that the app that you guys have that is allowing those to use those roles?
Well, first of all, it's our app. And so, yeah, for Power BI, maybe you can do that with the API, which I'm not really aware of, but the main point is with our app, it also respects all of the roles given in ServiceNow instance.
Yeah, I like that, because we have a lot of people who want reports outside of ServiceNow, and they want us to dump all the data into other tables, and it's like, then you lose all your security and PHI, and so exactly. I like that idea that you can do that.
Yeah, thank you. So we have another question. What are the options for exporting data reports? So as I already mentioned, you can export one table, the data from one table. So I will show you on one of the slides. You are able to actually choose the specific fields from the tables. You can add multiple tables to one data source, or you can create multiple data sources for multiple purposes and give them different names and purposes. So from here, you can also filter the data and choose the fields from the reference tables using dot walking. So when you from the connector, you will be able to reach the tables who have referenced fields to these tables. Thanks for the presentation. Can this be done without the Power BI connector using Power BI desktop? I think it's possible, but again, as I mentioned, this will make you to create the team or to hire a dedicated person to build an API and just do that, like the whole process with the API. So the main point of the connector is that you don't have to spend time and resources on building that custom solution in-house. So you just, you're just purchasing the ready-to-use solution. Thank you for your question. What ServiceNow data is available for export? Any limitations? So no, and this is the main, also one of the advantages before the API. So ServiceNow API has a limitation of loading 50K rows in one time. Our connector overcomes that limit, and also there is no limit for creating the data sources. So you can create as many as you need and add as many tables to a single data source. Does having a Power BI connector create a better performance management? What do you mean by create a better performance? Let's see. So we have our technical person here. Luba, can you please help me to answer this?
Actually, you can export everything according to the time related to the export. So, for example, you have amount of data. It of course will take some time to export the data into the Power BI. So between this request time and new data generated at the ServiceNow side, it could be a little bit of a latency. But anyway, you can schedule the refreshes at a specific point at a time, and you can be sure that you get all the data at that particular point. If this answers the question you asked.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Luba, for help. Do we have an API for Tableau as well, or is it only limited to Power BI? Yes, we have also a Tableau connector for ServiceNow, if you're asking about this. After the webinar, we will be sending out the recordings, and you can also find it in the ServiceNow store. Its name is Tableau Connector for ServiceNow. Okay, in our experience, using the ODBC connector, very slow for Power BI. Is this app faster? So, in terms of the performance, our app is built directly on the Now platform, and it is a plugin for ServiceNow. So the plugin itself does not affect the performance of the ServiceNow instance. But due to the amount of data, the data transfer can take some time. I'm not sure if this is faster than ODBC or not. But again, with the refreshing capabilities, so we can schedule a refresh at a certain time to just not take time for the refresh during the work days, during the working times. This is the first option, and the incremental refresh will also allow to reduce the time of loading. With that feature, you will be able to significantly decrease the time of the refresh. Also with the filters and everything, because the less data there is to load, the faster the loading time will be. Hope this answers it. The next one, thank you for your question. Can you talk about the configurations needed for scheduled and incremental refreshes? Is it configured on the Power BI side? Yes, it is configured on the Power BI side, and we have the detailed instructions, the detailed guides on how to do that in our documentation. The documentation is available inside our connector. There is a link to documentation, or you can reach out to me and I will also send you the guides. Okay, if there are no more questions, then I think we can close this session. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for coming today. As I said, we will be sending out the recording later so you can review it. And please reach out to me with any more questions, or if you would like a live demo session. Thank you, everyone. So have a great day.